Hey guys, welcome to a new easy video tutorial, and today I'm going to be showing you guys the 101 workflow of Unity 3D. So first things first is all I have done up until this point is installed Unity and opened a brand new project. There's nothing extra installed, no extra plugins or anything. This is just raw Unity. So the first thing you're probably wondering is what is going on. There are tons of different fields everywhere. If you've never opened Unity before, you really have no idea what's going on. So first, I'd like to explain the tabs. So right here you can see I am in the Scene tab. The Scene tab is your game world in the editor. So you can hold Alt and left click and move around. You can hold Alt and right click to zoom in, and you can hold Alt and Control and left click and you'll pan around horizontally and vertically. So this is just our world. Now over in the Game tab, it's our world as seen through our camera. So right now there's no objects, there's no lights, there's no anything, so it's just blank. Generally you do most of your editing in the scene and you test your game in the game mode. Now there's a few other ones that are important. Project is where all of your everything is in terms of files. So this is where your scripts will be, your models that you import, all of your logic, everything. This is just a way of looking at your files. However, over here on the hierarchy are your objects in your specific scene. So you can have prefabs, objects, models, all kinds of things over in your assets, but unless they're in the scene, they won't show up in the hierarchy. Now, there's one more very important one, which is called the inspector. So if you click on a game object, over on the right, the inspector will show you information about it. It'll show you its transform position, rotation, and scale, any components that it has added to it, etc. So what I'm going to do is show you guys kind of how to add a few game objects, how to do this, that, and the other, and basically just kind of get you used to Unity. So first, let's create a floor. Right? So we'll go up to game objects, we'll create 3D object, and we'll create a plane. So that's a pretty good size, but I think we'd want it just to be a little bit bigger. So I'm just going to go to the scale here and set this to 5x, 5y, and 5z. Or actually, y can still be 1 because it's a plane. Okay, so now we have a ground floor to look at. So now let's put something on the ground. So we'll go up here, create 3D object again, and create a cube this time, and we'll bring it up a little bit. So now if we hold Alt, we can move, and we can see we have our cube above the floor. So one of the things that you'll see a lot of times in games is they will have rigid bodies or physics or that kind of thing. So for example, if I go in here and I add a rigid body to a component, then we'll see that we have a rigid body. By default, it uses gravity, etc. So then if we click on the camera, we can see what the camera sees. So you can see it's kind of dark and not very normal. So let's add a light. So we'll go up to Game Object, go to Light, and add a Directional Light. Directional light is basically what you would think it is. It's more like a sun than anything else. It's just constant light in one direction. There's tons of other light objects, but that's for another video. So now you can see it's a much, much brighter area. So now let's move our camera up and hit play. You'll also notice that it switches to the game tab in full screen. So you saw there, our little object fell to the ground. So I'll show you that again. Just hit play and your object falls to the ground. Okay, so now that we kind of know what's happening a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and write a script. So how Unity works is you have your game objects in your scene, and they do things based on the scripts that you write. Scripts can be written in C#, JavaScript, or Boo, and basically you write your scripts and then attach them to objects so that they can do things. So for example, we could write a script that attached to the cube and followed it. So if the cube moved, the camera would also move. We could also write movement controls for the cube so that the cube can move. We could do all kinds of things. So for this video, I'm going to do that. I'm actually going to write a tiny script to show how to move very basically. So if we click Add Component, one of the things we can do is a new script. Then in the new script, let's give it a name. Let's just give it a movement. Let's do player movement. You can also select your language right here. So I'm going to select C# and click Create and Add. This creates a component of a script, player movement, and adds that component to my object. I could also add it to any other object that I make in the future. So if I click this gear and click edit script, it'll open up in your text editor. By default, this is mono-develop. I've set up Visual Studios, but that's neither here nor there. So to do this, you'll need to know two things. There's a void start function. This is the function that gets run when the object is made in the first place. So basically, as soon as your game starts, this function gets run. We're not going to put anything in here right now. Below, however, is the update function. This gets called every single frame. So if you want something to happen all the time in your game, this is where you do it. So to start off, I will just write a tiny little script here. So I'll do an if input, and then we'll do .get key. Let's see, by key code. And then we will do, let's do up arrow. So if they press the up arrow, is what it's saying, then we will do the following logic. So in here, we'll just do a translate, and we will make a new vector3, and this vector3 will have, let's say, 1, 0, and 0. So what this is saying is we have a new vector, which is x, y, and z variables. And when you press the up button, we want to translate the transform of our object in the direction of this vector, which in this case is just x1. And this will happen every time this update function is called. So if we go back to Unity, you'll see that it compiled here. We have a warning, but that's because of a Linux Mac issue. So if I go ahead and click play, we'll hop into our game. And if I press the up arrow, you'll see my guy actually moves. And that was done by that script that we just wrote. So that's kind of the overview of what is going on in Unity. You can basically add tons of objects, tons of lights, write scripts for each of them. And that's just kind of how it works and how it flows. The inspector, like I said before, is just used for any type of component or viewing information about an object. The hierarchy is used to view the objects in your scene and navigate them easily. The project is for handling your assets, your files, and that type of thing. And the console down below is for viewing errors, logs, stuff like that. You can also rearrange any of this by just simply dragging and dropping. People have tons of different setups for how they do this. I generally like the default. But yeah, I hope you guys liked the video. Thanks.